Fast onboarding creates loyal clients. Slow onboarding creates former clients. It's what I've observed across dozens of agencies over the past 3 years. Anything beyond 24 hours, it's agency suicide. Let me show you the 20 agency onboarding bottlenecks that are quietly destroying your clients' relationships before they even begin. And I break all points down into 6 key categories. The first one is system and processes. That is key because everything on top of that doesn't matter if your foundation is broken. And this is so important because with system and processes, you have a fixed system so you can proactively go to the clients and work with them. Unless you're a big boutique agency, there's no reason why your onboarding shouldn't be automated in these days of AI and automations. No external employee of your company or even yourself should be involved in this onboarding process until the kickoff call, of course. Everything before that should be automated. This point directly correlates with the next point, because if you don't have a fixed system, you also have no clear roadmap where your clients go through. Your clients have no idea what will happen and what is happening right now. You should remove that uncertainty and lay out exactly step by step what to expect. And not just in vague terms and like, oh, well, we do onboarding and then we do like a kickoff call and then we start working together, because that is not clear what the client is actually going through. The third point is that the client doesn't have a clear timeline expectation. Soon or shortly, or we will get back to you in a couple of days, or this might take a couple of weeks, is very vague. And the client doesn't understand what that actually means. Even you as an agency owner struggle to deliver, productize your service because you have no clear way of doing things. And onboarding is actually a really good reflection of how your agency is working. Because if your process is shitty, then your onboarding process is also shitty. A common mistake is that after the onboarding is technically done, you prepare the client for the partnership, but then the client doesn't know what to actually expect in the continuity phase. You maybe have a roadmap for your onboarding process, but you don't have a roadmap for the actual service delivery. And this is also a very good way to increase customer lifetime value, because if you exactly day for day or week to week map out what to expect and where the client are right now and what steps have to be taken to get to that dream outcome, you can just increase the amount of days or month your client is working with you. And don't just lengthen the amount of time you have to deliver for that client, but you can add some extra path or extra possibilities where you can increase customer lifetime value. In general, it's also very important to set a frame for a relationship. You can either date a person or see someone once because you just want to ask that person for something. But if the other person doesn't know what your intentions are, they are just getting confused and getting anxious what you are actually intending. So openly say what your intentions with your client relationships are. Next point, no clear KPIs. When you're working together with that client, then you should be clear what a successful partnership should look like. So you and your client should be clear about which metrics to optimize for. Should you optimize for leads or for sales? That is a completely different story. If your client doesn't know what to optimize for, they will be never satisfied with your service. And the beautiful thing about that is that you can just come up with any definition of success, maybe not random definitions, but tied to the goal of your prospect to frame your partnership as successful or not. You should make the decision for your client to stay or to leave very easy. You don't want to be in a situation where your client is so confused or have an internal conflict and doesn't know should they stay or go with another partner. But now let's move on to the next category, bad communication. This is where your client just feels abandoned, like in a ghost town. First of all, some clients doesn't even know what an onboarding process is. And if they already know what an onboarding process is, because if they don't know what an onboarding process is, then explain the onboarding process and why it's freaking necessary. The seventh point is that you have no clear after-sales process. And you might think this has to do something with systems and processes, because this is also a process, but after the sales calls and between the onboarding, it's just a matter of framing the after-sales process. Because I wouldn't recommend you to onboard a client immediately after they bought your program or service. Just let the client sit on their own for 10 minutes so they can resell themselves, because they just bought emotionally and now they have to justify their decisions logically. Don't overwhelm them by throwing them into this new onboarding process. But also, it shouldn't be taking too long to get to the onboarding process, because then the client isn't emotionally bought into the program anymore. Point number 8, you have never confirmed that the client is now in good hands and that they made the right decision. Number 9, no clear contact method. Your client just doesn't know how to get in contact with you. And if you don't proactively mention where to reach out to, then you fall also into the danger of having too many communication channels. WhatsApp, email, Slack. So be sure to act proactively. Point 10, no progress updates. And you maybe think good results are the foundation for client retention, but it's actually not. Because you want to update your progress, because your clients knows what's going on, but also to be bought in to the vision and have the transparency of what you're actually doing. And oftentimes, if you deliver too good results and have a payment structure of a setup fee and paid on performance deal, if you made your clients too much money, they will just leave, because if they see a billable over 20K, they just say, oh, well, like, fuck off, and we bring this whole operation in-house. So when you're working, just update what you are doing in a simple dashboard. Nothing fancy, just some basic metrics you agreed on, you want to improve. That signals transparency, and transparency builds trust. So let's get to the next section. And I call this the client knowledge gap. Sometimes you're just speaking a different language your client doesn't understand. I hope you have a niche and you know and studied that niche, but you also come in as an agency. Now you and the client is partnering together and they both speak their separate lingos. You have to be really careful which party has which lingo and what they can understand and can't understand. Because if you come out the blue and talk about fancy Facebook ads metrics your client just doesn't understand, but assume your clients are understanding that expert lingo, then the client just feels lost. So be sure you also have a definitions catalog of certain terms you are using on a day-to-day basis. This ties closely with the next point. You assume your clients are familiar with certain software. Niche, then your client already know your main softwares, but if not, pay attention to that detail. Especially when it comes to onboarding, you need a software or process or some sort of automations. And if your client just doesn't know the software on your onboarding process, the client is just lost. Then the clients come to you and you have to play Q&A. So next point, number 13. You're not showing what they have actually bought. You have pitched your clients on the sales call what they will buy, but this is just a high-level overview of what you're actually doing. And you don't have to mention every single detail before your actual partnership, but be sure to mention the whole process of how you are operating again in the onboarding process to make sure that you and your clients are on the same wavelength. Next category, assets exchange. This is what a lot of people think what onboarding is, to exchange details, specific documents and assets for the partnership. But it's actually more than that, because you have to understand, if you just send your clients a big checklist of what they should give you, they will be overwhelmed. They put it off somewhere on their desktop and will never touch it again. What that typically looks like is that you step in, apply pressure for your clients to finally submit their documents, because then you can say, oh, well, like, you bought this program and you have to now stick to the basic rules, but the client is pissed off. And I get that, you are technically right, but it's still the wrong way of doing things, because you want to serve your clients and not the other way around. Sure, you should have fixed boundaries, but it doesn't mean to have stupid boundaries. And the next point, number 15, exactly talks about removing friction. So you make it very easily for the client to upload certain things. Don't use fancy wording, phrases, just a simple place where your clients and you can upload certain things. But let's get to the next section. They don't see you as an expert. The first onboarding mistake in that section is that you have unclear case studies. What I mean by that is you have some random case studies on your website and maybe even in your client portal to really showcase that you are an expert, but they are shady or the client doesn't really understand what they have done. Sometimes when you have super solid results done for your clients, it's actually not the wisest move to put your best testimonial on your front door where your client sees the best, because then they are anxious or feel bad, because then for the client to achieve that goal is way too far ahead and they feel bad. But if you put a case study, no judgment, of a stupid person that achieves average solid results, it's far better to put that case study on, because then the client can see that even though this stupid guy who surely can't achieve anything in life still got this result with you. That is a good thing. If you put your most talented and hard-working client on your website or on your front door, your client gets discouraged. And even though you delivered solid and great results, but didn't broke your all-time case study, the client maybe feel discouraged. So pay attention which case study you are using in your partnership to signal authority. So make sure to have some sort of proof in your process. And that is exactly tied to the next point, that you have no team visibility, or maybe if you have an office, that you have not showcased your office. Your office and also team are proofs that you are an expert. You're not just a one-man show, but of course this is just the case for some of you. Point number 17. Your company history is vague and shady. If they go on your socials and see you are not transparent with certain periods of time, the client is getting suspect. And being transparent and also stand for your fuck-ups doesn't destroy the partnership, but actually strengthens the relationships, because it builds trust. And this is not just with your own company history, but also with your own past. Be open what you have done. Don't have these weird phrases on LinkedIn, on Instagram, where your clients doesn't know what you have actually done. And they shouldn't know your private life, but still have an idea what you have actually done. So now let's get to the last section of this video, missed opportunities. And we already talked about that in the beginning of the video, but now in the onboarding process, you have also the chance to upsell your clients. Not directly, because then they will just get pissed off, but make them aware that you have an upsell. That also shows your clients that you are the expert and also know just more than the basic offer of your agency. You don't just do that in the onboarding process, but also in your partnership. And that does mean you should hard sell your clients, but make them aware that this option exists. Talk about certain results or clients that you work with that shows proof, and also established you as an expert. So that's it, the 20 onboarding mistakes. And I know that were a lot of points. So in the description, I added a document where all the 20 mistakes are summarized so you can actually implement them and not just close this video and never worry about those onboarding mistakes.